I am officially calling the meeting to order.
All right, representatives, please state your names for the record when I call the taxing district you represent. City of DeKalb,
Bill Nicholas?
DeKalb School District,
Cindy Carpenter.
DeKalb County,
Gary Hansen.
DeKalb Park District, DeKalb Township,
Mary Hess.
Kishwaukee College,
Bob Johnson.
Public Member,
Larry Burke.
Kishwaukee Water Reclamation District, DeKalb Public Library, DeKalb Township Road and Bridge District, DeKalb County Forest Preserve, 6 present.
Thank you. I believe we have a quorum of the first of the bodies that are eligible to vote. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the appointment of a permanent chair. I think I would settle today for the appointment of a temporary chair, because I think possibly the next time we meet, we may be able to meet more comfortably in person, and at that time move toward a permanent chair. But I'm open to volunteers who would like to chair this meeting. I didn't do any arm twisting beforehand, so this we may. I've got the whole afternoon, so we can we can see what we want to do.
I nominate Bob Johnson.
What is that, Gary? Did you volunteer?
No, I was nominating Bob Johnson.
Oh, you nominated Bob Johnson. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, Larry, second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of Bob Johnson serving as temporary chair, say aye. Yes. Oh, we have to do a roll call. Thank you.
City of DeKalb,
Yes.
DeKalb School District,
Yes.
DeKalb County,
Yes.
DeKalb Township,
Yes.
Kishwaukee College,
Yes.
Public Member,
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you.
Guess that's what happens when you show up in person. There's only three, if you can't tell, there's only 3 of us at the table, so. Okay, next item on the agenda says approval of minutes, which were distributed to us, I don't know, a week or so ago. We have a motion to approve that approval, to approve the minutes.
A motion. Cindy Carpenter.
And seconded by Larry Burke. Any discussion? Do you need roll call on that?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
City of DeKalb,
Yes.
DeKalb School District,
Yes.
DeKalb County,
Yes.
DeKalb Township,
Yes.
Kishwaukee College,
Yes.
Public Member,
Yes.
6 yes.
Motion carried. Public participation, do we have any? Looks like not. That's a first since I've been coming to these, I think. Fourth quarter FY 2020 financials, please, Bill.
Yes, thank you. And I will walk us through maybe the next bullet points as well, and pause at any point that anybody has any questions or comments, so please don't hesitate. You have a pretty hefty packet that was mailed to you, which included, as is typical in the last couple of years, printouts from our general ledger indicating the revenues and expenditures for both TIF 1 and TIF 3. In this case, the quarter ending is also the year ending, so we did a quarterly and also a year-end journaling of where we were just a little more than 2 weeks ago. The packets went out 2 weeks ago tonight, and so they were current through that point. Are there any questions about those? Susan Hallman is here, who's our senior accountant, and she can help me with any questions you may have about those journal entries. Okay. And then I want to spend a little time on the council-approved budgets for TIF 1 and TIF 3. And Jeremy Alexander, our IT director, is going to put up a file which people who are here in the room have, and I want to make sure you have, and I can follow up with an email making sure you all have. I'm doing this because 2 weeks ago it is almost an age for us. Carolyn Morris is here, by the way, for thank you. Because it's our year end. Our fiscal year goes with the calendar year, and some of you may be going through the same thing, but in our case, we had COVID issues, the holidays, and a few other things. So at the time I sent this out, I gave you what I thought was still it certainly was a council-approved budget for FY21, which had our best projection of what the year-end 2020 numbers were going to be. And on the whole, the spending side is solid, but I want to draw your attention to what's up on the screen. Can you all see that, who are zooming in? Okay. I want you to, and I'll do this with TIF 1 and also TIF 3, I want you to look at the top, the all-important property tax TIF increment line, which is the first line there. And the actual numbers for 18 and 19 don't change, obviously. The budget doesn't change. But the projection has changed for reasons we can go into if you like, but we were projecting another last payout on this, but there isn't another payout, so there's a substantial drop. Part of this is explained by the fact that TIF 3 obviously grew out of TIF 1, so there's been some change there, but it doesn't explain the whole. So there's obviously been some negotiation on the EAV side of things in the last year, and so our year-end number, and Susan, you can correct me if you think otherwise, but is $6,611,022 rather than the $7,280,000 projected when we did the budget a year ago. And that's a chunk of money. On the spending side, if you could scroll up just a little bit, Jeremy, just to get to the bottom. The only, I did this morning at about 10 o'clock, just so I could give you something very accurate and very up to date. The one change that I had to make in order to keep us balanced and to get through the year with the commitments that we had already talked about and made is on the, and this is fortuitous, I have to say, it usually doesn't happen. The federal government, as you may know, has been putting a lot of COVID support monies into transportation across the country. There are mass transit agencies that are practically made whole by some of this federal support. And in our case, there was money available not only for mass transit, but also for airport funding. We had projected having to pay the best part, our local share for the resurfacing of our runway 220, which is the northeast southwest runway, the newest runway, and all the associated taxiways. And Gary has some experience with this, having been on our airport board. And that number has, I confirmed also this morning with our airport manager, is substantially reduced because the feds are going to cover 100% of the repaving and a major share beyond what they intended to take on for the taxiways, which have to be done at the same time, and some crack filling. So our local share is probably going to be somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000. We don't have the final TIP adjustment, Transportation Improvement Plan adjustment, but that is probably going to come by the end of this first quarter. That's how I was able to keep us from falling underwater in our projection for the end of the budget year. We'll have more conversation about that, but that is, on the spending side, how I make up the difference. And we didn't have to make the whole 400+ thousand difference because there was a little bit of a better balance, but at this point, that's where we're going to be. And if you could scroll up, Jeremy, you can see what that does to the balance for TIF 1. Obviously, haven't changed the projected payout. We are going to have, obviously, a payout, but I did have to reduce that, so it's 50% of the actual increment, which is down from the 3.5 to roughly 3.3 million. So let me pause there and let you digest that.
Bill, this is Gino. Was the increment
Yes,
down?
Gino.
Was the increment down because TIF 3 was created, thereby having the increment kind of go away because it readjusted the base for TIF 3? Is that what happened?
That's part of it, Gino, and that's probably 3/5 of it from what I can see based on what I saw this morning. And we'll get to TIF 3 and I can show you there's a reduction there also. So the TIF 3 is a little bit north of 300,000 projected for actual increment. So there's still about $150,000 to $200,000 gap, and all I can think is there are property tax appeal, there are changes, we have a very active reassessment going on around town, so I don't know what else to attribute that to, and I'm open to Mary, maybe you know, or maybe
The positive side of that 3/5, then, if it did go because the properties were taken out of TIF 1 and put into TIF 3, means the base was increased for those properties, which means that's EAV that came online for the benefit of the taxing districts for that first year.
correct,
Okay.
correct. Yes.
And I'm
So-
sure too, when you were budgeting at that time, numbers were changing quite a bit in terms of EAVs and where the TIFs were gonna actually end up when it was all said and done. So it's probably kind of tough to nail down that number at that time.
It was, although I will say hat tip to Gary Hansen, and I believe it was Sheila Santos who helped us early on back in August when we were trying to figure out a reasonable surplus formula for TIF 3. They ran ahead and calculated what that what the actual increment might be in TIF 3 from 2019 forward for 22 years. So that helped. I mean, it wasn't great news, but it was, I think, more accurate than the projections that we had based on some of the information that I inherited from 2018, which obviously was a little inflated. So that's how we got there. Okay, Jeremy, could you scroll up just a little bit? We'll go to TIF 3 real quick. And adjustment there too, we were projecting a number which, we had a little conversation about that. Gary thought it was a little high back in August, but at that point, my numbers were based on a property by property estimated EAV that was probably, well, it was 2 years old, but I didn't see that it would go down. Obviously it did. So the number $300,639 is the actual year end, Susan, correct? Okay, so I added 1% to that for 2021. Now, what I'm showing you is not what was in the budget that was just approved a month ago by the council. So I'll bring it back to the council, but I'm going to bring it back as you see it today, unless there's some typo or miscalculation you see or I see in the next couple of weeks. We'll bring that back for a budget amendment at a February council meeting. We have to do some other amendments on the capital side, year-end information that has implications for how much we can spend in 21, and we'll clean it all up then. The Mayor and Carolyn are in the room, and I'll have to bring that to you. Any questions? Who else is? Oh, and Tracy, I didn't see you. Come in.
Okay.
Sorry. 2 aldermen and the mayor. Okay. That's all, Mr. Chairman. That's all I had on that.
Okay.
I might want to say one other thing. The last thing is we tried to fill in the new accountability spreadsheet that we had agreed that's part of the in boilerplate form, part of the IGA, and we filled in numbers for the first time. We were doing that in January, early January, and I think we can improve on that reporting a little bit, but that was the best we could do with the time that we had. So I appreciate, I guess this is the first time we've met since we finished the IGA. I just want to have one final note, if I may, and that is, it was, in 6 months, I would say we did a lot of good work. And I want to thank you, Gino, from a private actor in all this, but obviously very important, and all of you on the screen and in the room here. We not only came up with something that ultimately all taxing bodies supported, but the taxing bodies jumped on this in a deliberate fashion, and we got through it, and so it's a fabric of how we proceed from here. So thank you for that. That's all I had.
Thank you, Bill. And I figured we'd kind of follow up, between now and the next meeting, and I can provide some input on that spreadsheet, just to, because we knew it was an initial draft working towards making a better product. So be glad to work with you in between the 2 quarterly meetings here.
Good, I appreciate that. Well, I truly mean that.
And I just want to say, I mean, just the transparency of it, it's so much improved, I mean, from past years. So I do appreciate that, and going through that process. It's just so much easier to read and to really know what's going on. And following the numbers is much easier.
And
I look forward to the time when it's very boring to meet in these meetings. Just, it's all there and that's all it is, and, but certainly it's a community interest, and it's very important still as a tool in our incentivizing redevelopment. So
I
we're
appreciated
very serious about it.
the narrative summary, Bill. I think that was very insightful as you walk through them all, such as the Agora projects and other one, because you could see the investment, the private investment versus the public investment through the TIF. So you could see the good that it's working on.
Okay. We'll keep that up unless you get tired of it, but I think it helps us too. It's a historical document now. People can go back. The numbers tell a tale, but not the full tale. So, okay.
Next item on the agenda is update on DeKalb TIF projects.
Well, and Gino led us into that. The narrative I have here is just a very spare summary in some cases. The most recent work that the council did was the plan to redevelop the old City Hall project or parcel on South 4th Street. A little more detail than maybe I would normally put in, just to show the thinking and how we got to one proposal, and then what the projected return on investment would be there. And that will be significant, just because that had been off the tax rolls for so many years. And looking forward, as you see by the TIF 3 budget, which is where the projects are going to be funded going forward after this year, we're looking at probably 1 or 2 projects of the size of maybe that the restaurant transformation at 3rd and Lincoln, something like that, 100, 150,000. That'll be something I'll bring to you. I think I'll bring it to you early in the process. If we have try to make it align with it's kind of hard sometimes to align with the meetings, but certainly I can communicate to you and kind of get in some informal work on that, because we're not going to be able to throw too many grants out or forgivable loans out in any annual program.
Okay. Kind of talked about the new IGA, but there is an agenda item to update on the IGA that's just discussed.
We're all, it's all approved now, so.
And I think it would probably behoove all of us to, personally, for representing the college and sitting in on these meetings for a couple of years, that this has been a very good process to fix a situation that wasn't so good, that took a lot of effort by a lot of people to get to this point, so thank you to Bill and the mayor and all the folks on the screen and around the city hall that made this all happen, and all the taxing bodies as well. So it was the best outcome that could, in my opinion, that could have been expected, considering the situation we found ourselves in. If anybody else, any of the other bodies that haven't spoken up would care to make comments, you're more than welcome to.
No, I echo that as well. It's been a long time coming, obviously. I feel like we've been working on this for years, and I think we have. But it's nice to just be able to have an agreement finalized. We all know, what the path is to move forward and what that looks like. So it's just great to be in that spot and to get that behind us.
I also echo everybody's comments, and particular thanks to Bill, who was willing to take his small piece of pie and make it a little bit bigger, and I certainly appreciate that, so that we could all find it. I had hoped we'd meet in person. I was going to actually bring you a pie, but I'll just enjoy it myself, I guess. So.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll never forget the comment you made. That was at the July meeting, and we were still searching. We had just created that working group, and there was still a lot of work to do. And I had thrown out kind of a peace offering, and you said, Gary, well, it's nice to see that the pie is out there. It's a small piece, but we can work on that. So you did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
As a new member to this, and from the public sector, it is good to see something functioning where government bodies are working together and accomplishing something in a very difficult situation. So I applaud all of you for slugging through what was very challenging, I'm sure, for you.
Anybody else care to make a comment? Mayor?
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Looks like the next meeting is April 23rd. Assumes similar format. More to come.
Yeah. And I think we have some time now to think about a permanent chair too. Thank you, Bob, for serving today, and we can work on that. Final thing, I'd like, before we adjourn, one last time to say thank you to Gary. Not only has he been very constructively involved in our TIF program, but there's other around the county that Gary's also been tending and mentoring and so forth. So thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, and I think everybody knows my successor will be Brian Gregory, who's the city manager at Sycamore, and I'm sure he'll be attending these regularly. So, I've enjoyed it very much, and it's nice to have a quiet meeting after some of the last couple of years we enjoyed. So this is a nice way for me to end.
I think they should just continue to be Zoom meetings, so Gary, you can pop in anytime you want to.
Yeah.
Even if you're in Florida or wherever you're at.
I can make public comments.
Yes, you can. But thank you, Gary, for everything. Really appreciate it.
Anything else anybody has to contribute? I have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, if nobody seconds, we stay here. So. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
City of DeKalb,
Aye.
DeKalb School District,
Yes.
DeKalb County,
Yes.
DeKalb Township,
Yes.
Kishwaukee College,
Yes,
public member.
Yes.
we are adjourned.
Yes.